like many of you, I think remember Stu fondly for what a wonderful character he was, and just a phenomenal player on the field. Are you all right there? And someone who brought a great deal of joy to a whole generation of young rugby players. I speak from my own experience through the late 70s and early 80s. He was someone that really captivated people's imagination with the way he used to play, and following on his career was a really entertaining, passionate former All Black, and someone that we all had a lot of time for. So I just want to acknowledge that, and we certainly wish our condolences to Stu's family at this time, and acknowledge the sort of the sadness they're working through. Turning to the other news of the day, I obviously welcome you here to have a chat about my decision to step away from New Zealand Rugby. As we've said in the release and statement, primarily this is a decision about family, and over the last few months now, all my family has been based in Queensland, and as I look through to the end of the year, I'm looking forward to not only the next 6 months in my role, but I'm really looking forward to being reconnected with my family early next year in Queensland. So that's certainly been a big part of the decision. And when I reflect on what the year has in store, the next 6 months is really an absolutely critical time for our game. So we have massive opportunities as it relates to the international calendar that we're very close to finalising, and you're all very familiar with in terms of the great progress we've made there and the leadership role that New Zealand Rugby's played in putting that calendar together. And then we have a fantastic opportunity again around the financial model of the game in New Zealand, which we've talked about over the last 4 to 5 years as something that hopefully the game can come together and look to create a model where all levels of the game can align with a strategy to invest in the right areas of the game to continue the growth of the game at all levels, but also find a way to be on a more sustainable footing going forward. So when I weigh those things up, combined with the Black Ferns playing in a Rugby World Cup in England and the All Blacks having another massive year of a schedule ahead of them, that seems like a really natural point to step away from the organisation in December. And I want to thank you all as media before we get started too for not only the relationship we've had and the work we've done together, but also just your friendship and camaraderie and your professional judgment and the work you've had to do in doing your jobs, which I acknowledge as well. So thanks for your time on this, but happy to open up for questions now.
You mentioned the factors that came into play. Was it a tough decision to leave this role?
Yeah, I mean, it's yes and no, Elliot. I think it's it's a job I've always said I absolutely love, but ultimately when I look at the last few years and the amount of time that I've already spent away from family just by virtue of international travel and things like that, and then I look at the next stage of probably my professional career and where the family's now based, it's probably felt like next step in my life was always going to be offshore, and reflecting on it over the last sort of month or so, probably this is a decision that came out of that, really.
Was dealing with COVID the toughest part of the tenure?
Yes, yeah. I mean, I think I was 3 weeks into the role when COVID came along, and I was actually overseas. I was on my first overseas trip with partners in World Rugby, and this was all sort of starting to happen. Clearly it had a big impact on people, on our organisation, and as it did for many organisations around New Zealand. So that was extremely tough, dealing with a lot of aspects around that. But what I'm probably at the same time most proudest of is the way we bounced back from that, and we look at we were, as it relates to sport and entertainment, living in one of the most challenging countries in the world at that time to get our sport going. And what we've been able to do through the immediate aftermath of COVID in terms of growing revenue by over 60% on an annual basis, to now to get the game going and seeing all the things we've been able to invest in to bring the Silver Lake deal to fruition and be able to invest over $60 million in participants and fans and stakeholders at that time. We know we've got more work to do on our financial model, but I think coming out of that time with such a strong revenue line has been really, really pleasing and something I'm extremely proud of. And then I think we also at that time took stock of where the game was at and started talking, I think for the first time, around this game having to be far more fan-centric and focused on, as it related to the professional game, on our fans, and in the community game to really focus on our participants. And we've made a lot of changes as it relates to both the professional game and the amateur game to fit those principles. And those things out of a really, really challenging time are some of the things I'm probably most proud of, yeah.
Do you feel you leave the game in a better place than when you took the role, Mark?
I do, yeah. Look, and that's no reflection on the past, Ollie, but I think of, as I say, the growth we've got, the potential for continued growth, the focus we now have on fans and the positioning we've done internationally over the last 3 or 4 years, especially, where our teams, our athletes, our brands are far more recognisable all around the world. We now invest, close to $40 million a year into the community game, which is significantly above, where it was previously. We're seeing community rugby numbers bounce back to sort of pre-COVID levels, which again is world leading. We do work on the international stage as it relates to player welfare and brain and concussion research, which is absolutely leading the way globally. Our fan base has transformed, and that's starting to play through in some of the things we're seeing with global partnerships. You think about our sponsorship base has more than doubled through that time. And I think our environments are different. The game, society, our country is very different to what it was 5 years ago. And I think our environments and our team and our people have made huge shifts there around, how accessible and open and inclusive our environments are, and have grown to over the last few years. So, look, I'm really proud of loads of things that we've done. If you look at the product, the on-field product I talked about before, Super Rugby is by far, the best competition we have seen in many, many years, and that's a culmination of a huge amount of work we've done on the global stage to lead law reform. We've been 12 to 18 months ahead of most competitions in that regard, in most countries, in terms of our drive to achieve that. I think about the presence we have on the global stage now and the work we've done to lead, new leadership regime and at World Rugby, and one we think will be very positive for the game. New Zealand was certainly at the heart of that. So, look, when I look at all levels of the game, be it community and participation through to the professional game, through to revenue growth, our environments, our impact on the international stage, both in terms of a governing body and connecting the fans, I'm really proud of some of the things that we've done.
Do you, given that there's obviously 6 months left in your tenure, do you feel like you've achieved everything you could have in this role?
I'll tell you in 6 months' time. I think the opportunity ahead for the entire game in New Zealand over the next 6 months is really significant. It is a chance to look at a new financial model for the game, as I said at the outset, which can really set the game up for success. So that would definitely be, a piece of work I see as outstanding and needs to be looked at. And there's just a little bit of work to do still on the international calendar. We're getting close, but when I step back and think about what that calendar is going to look like, with All Blacks South Africa tests, with the Lions tours coming here, with the Nations Cup hopefully getting off the ground, World Cups in this part of the world, it's an amazing time for fans over the next 5 years. So look, I think the key thing will be over the next 6 months to get those two big projects achieved, and then I'd be very, very happy.
Mark, I was going to say, was there any regrets about that the job's not quite done, but is the job ever quite done in a role like CEO of New Zealand Rugby? It's just, there's always something, right? It's the kind of organisation filled with kind of people and teams which are always demanding to be better, and the day that our organisation, our teams and our people aren't striving to do that will be a day that is something we shouldn't hope never happens, or we shouldn't look forward to. We absolutely demand the best of the best from a sporting organisation which is really respected all around the world. And I think, for anyone in the role going forward, balancing And I think this is a great challenge. It's one I've really enjoyed, balancing, preserving the legacy and the history of our organisation and the game and fostering all that's been good about it historically, but forcing ourselves to be different in the way we think about the future of the game and the way we connect with fans and participants in particularly is a great constant challenge that's always going to be there, because the trends around sport, recreation and entertainment are constantly evolving, and rugby just has to be able to work in a way that not only keeps up with that, but over time finds a way to stay ahead of it, and that's a great challenge for our game. And I think we've done a lot of things to try and achieve that over the last few years.
You led the historic move into private equity with Silver Lake's investment. Do you regard that as one of your most notable achievements, getting that over the line through a tough period?
Look, I think the one thing I'd say about our organisation is we're a team-first organisation. And the way I probably think about it is any success and great things we've achieved has certainly been a team approach and founded on a whole lot of great people coming together. And the reality is, when things don't go well, you're the sole responsibility for those things happening, and that's absolutely the way it should be in leadership. So that was a really important juncture in the game. When you look at what we've been able to invest in over the last few years, like I say, $60 million one-off investment into key areas of the game, really, the participants, the players, and the future of connecting with fans. That was really, really critical. And we are definitely seeing green shoots and signs that we can grow revenue, over the near, medium and long term because of that investment and our ability to connect more with our fans. Most sporting organisations, be they clubs, national organisations, professional leagues, are thinking of ways that they connect with their fans, and we, as it relates to rugby, again, we were a little bit ahead of our time in terms of looking at that opportunity and capitalising on a key time in the game to get investment into that space.
You touched on most of the big ticket items, COVID and Super Rugby and Silver Lake. The only other one would be the change in All Black coach. It was fraught, it was much discussed. I think there's a book coming out soon. How do you reflect on that time?
Look, like I said before to Mark's question, we're a team-first organisation, and we absolutely, through that time, put the team winning and the team performance right at the front of all the decisions we made. And it meant, as it relates to the World Cup and getting ready for that, it meant pushing and making sure we had the right people there to have the absolute best chance of winning that tournament. And we all know, what happened. We came up incredibly frustratingly short, but absolutely made sure that leading into that tournament and for the 12 to 18 months in advance, we had the best people we possibly could have there. And then we also had the team's best interests and the future of the team's interests at heart as it relates to the medium to long term, and made what we need is the changes to set ourselves up for success in that regard. So, I look back on that. We've always stayed really high as it relates to the communication around this. We've not been personal. We've not looked to redesign history as it relates to that. And I know the people close to those decisions did a great job and got not only the short-term lead into the tournament right, but we got the medium to long-term right. And when I look at the alignment across all of our national programs now, I think of the Black Ferns, the All Blacks and the Sevens campaigns. I look at the way that all of those coaches are working together in areas like the under-20s, the way they're collaborating across men's and women's, 15s and 7s. It is a really positive working environment we have across all our national teams now, and the way in which those environments are now distilling their learnings and their the key principles they want to see in the game through into wider interests of the game across our stakeholders, our super clubs and our provincial unions, is really, really heartening and another key part of the change that we had to make. So look, yeah, we're very pleased with that. We're pleased with the decisions we made, and we put the team first.
One other big ticket item in the next 6 months, the broadcast deal. How's it shaping up? How confident are you?
I'd like to think it's done in 6 months, Liam. Look, yeah, I guess it's a bit of a boring response for you all around this one, but yeah, the conversations are constructive and we're working through it. Yeah.
Who would you like to see succeed you?
Oh, look, that's not that's not my call, and
I haven't really given that any thought at all, to be honest, Jamie. As I said, I hope, and I know it will be, someone that absolutely grows to love the organisation, love the people, and love the game. And one of the challenges and opportunities is to, I guess, keep forging the change and evolution of the sport and preserving what's beautiful and rich around our heritage and our culture and our legacy, but, you know, remaining sure that we keep challenging the sport to grow and evolve and be different, because we simply have to in the environments that we're in.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Short and sweet. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Who do you want? Rico, you want it? Yeah, Rico, he's the man.
Ace of New Zealand Rugby.
Okay.
You could run policy on Insta.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Can I ask you one question? You listed all that stuff. What are you most proud of all of that stuff? All the initiatives you're talking about?
I'm gonna cop out and be a bit diplomatic here, I guess. I mean, you know, I've always spoke about an all-a-game approach. You know, you can't have any one area or level of the game without the others. It's one big system, and so in that regard, you know, there's no one big achievement as such that is necessarily, you know, any better or worse than the others. That each level of the game needs each other to really succeed. So the things I spoke about around community help us to foster an amazing team in black environment with future players coming through. You can't have one without the other. We can't have, you know, revenue growth without amazing athletes and teams who represent us so well on the global stage to help us drive value and those sorts of things. You know, we can't have that presence on the international stage without a really strong grassroots and stakeholder fraternity doing their job. So, look, there's certainly things that I'll look back on. Again, this might be for 6 months' time where, you know, my emotions and pride in the organisation were maybe super high and at a fantastic level because of the pride of the achievements of the organisation. But at a day-to-day level, it's the whole game coming together and working for each other that I think we rely on. And that's what this next 6 months is about, is setting up a system that we can hopefully do that more effectively.
Would you say you left the game better than you found it in this role?
Yeah, I think I answered that question earlier with regards to Ollie in a pretty fulsome way, so I won't go back over all that again. Hopefully it's on tape somewhere. So, but yeah, I am. Yep.
Where's the leaving party?
Yeah.
6 months' time, something. So I'll let you know.
Shady bar in Brisbane.
Far away from us.
GC.
Yeah.